And so we'll go over a couple. First of all, the housekeeping rules simply are in case of the earthquake or such, your exit out to your left or down either of these doors and exit out the back door. Restrooms are all down this hallway and to your immediate left. There's water, juice, and coffee for your helping. If you choose to have a breakfast, and they go one breakfast here, please do remember to pay for your meal. So, yes, we don't want people to get tackled out in the parking lot. It doesn't look good. But anyways, no, seriously. With that, we're going to begin. We have an excellent session this morning. I have an exceptional amount of great questions brought forward by you, the audience members. So let me begin by going over the rules of engagement for our candidates. First part simply is that we begin with a 3-minute and with 3 minutes they'll have an opportunity to share with you who they are, their background, and whatever they want to share. Then from there, we'll move into a question and answer period of which questions are generated by you, the audience members. So I'll have 1 minute to answer your questions, and then we'll go into a final 2-minute summary from each candidate. I will let you know that these questions are being timed. So we have Frank there who will put up the yellow. And for example, when you have 3 minutes, you'll have 30 seconds. When you have a 1 minute answer response, will be 10 seconds to go. And then up goes the red, that means it's over. And if you keep talking, you'll find me moving closer to an indication to please give up the speaker for the time being. In addition to that, we want to point out that if any of you happen to have some of these rectangular things in your pockets, purses, whatever, please put them on silence or on buzz so they do not interrupt our candidates this morning. And with that, we ask that if your does go off and rings in the middle of this this morning conversation, we ask that to make a move just $20. So $20 donation to a local nonprofit. Frank?
Salvation Army.
Who it is?
The Salvation Army.
Salvation Army. And if you don't think this actually works, 2 weeks.
A couple weeks ago, you did it.
Mine went off. And I did make my donation. I really went to the rescue mission.
Yes, it did.
So, anyways,
yes, you did.
It's not something that we force on you. It's an honorary thing, okay? So we're not going to hunt you down by any means. We just simply ask you, please have the courtesy to turn off your phones. Also, let you know there's no photography or filming of this event. We are doing that for you, and it'll be posted to the webpage of the Chamber of Commerce. Did I miss anything else, Frank?
No, you're good, sir.
Very good.
Challenge cards, I'm sorry.
What's
The challenge cards.
Oh, challenge cards. Excellent. Thank you. So we do have 2 challenge cards our candidates have. And so if you, during the course of the conversation, the opponent says something that you want to challenge as far as what they're saying, you just raise the challenge card. I'll collect it when the opponent is finished.
Either one.
You get to do it twice. When the candidate's done with their speak, then I'll take your challenge card. You'll have a minute to review them, and then they will have a minute to actually counter them. So that make it fair. You get to use it twice and use them wisely if you use them. All right. So with that, good morning, everyone. Let's get started for today's eggs and fishes. So with that, I'm going to ask our first candidate, Sherry Appleton, to please begin with the 3-minute introduction to our audience members.
Okay, you said 3 minutes, right?
Yes, and watch Frank
Frank has got
and then look out for me when it goes red. Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to welcome everybody here and thank the Chamber for having.
Excuse me.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, let's-
Wait. Nobody's ever accused me of being too soft. Is that right?
yeah, try to talk into it and let's see what okay, you're live. Okay.
I am live.
There we go.
Well, I'll start again. Welcome. I really appreciate the fact that you're all here, and I appreciate the Chamber sponsoring these, although I always dread them. Anyway, since I am the representative for the 23rd Legislative District, which is Bainbridge Island, come across the bridge, Suquamish, Indianola, Kingston, Hansville, Paulsbo, the base, Bangor, and then down to Manette, just past Manette, to the water. Since being elected to the legislature, I have fought for Kitsap County, and that's my slogan, putting Kitsap first. I have worked tirelessly on transportation and protecting our ferries. I've tried to make sure that we have a strong economy because we need that. I have advocated for smart environmental policies, protecting workers, small business, and air and water quality. Those things are really important. And then to ensure that every one of us has access to affordable health care, which is Medicare for all. And I've been lucky because I've introduced that bill 7 times, and this year will be the 8th. I also have worked to make sure that we have good schools and well-trained teachers, especially since McCleary has been settled. We put an extra $1 billion in the budget for teacher salaries. And I have worked for veterans. I was named Legislator of the Year by the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs for 2011. I am chair of local government, and I sit also on state government and public safety. I'm a Toll Fellow, which comes from the Council of State Governments. There are only 40 people who are from all 3 branches of government who are chosen. Wow, that was fast. And then the Western Legislative Academy, 39 of us were picked to go to Colorado Springs. So we've done that. I was on the Paulsbo City Council from 1985 to 1993. I serve on the Commission on Judicial Conduct, the Office of Public Defense Advisory Committee. Can I finish my sentence? Thank you. Legislator of the Year for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Legislator of the Year and National Legislator of the Year for Elder and Adult Services, and that's the Senator John Hines Memorial Award in 2010, and Legislator of the Year for the Humane Society, 2018. I just had that one thing. Okay. And Champion of Cities Award in 2007. Thank you.
Thank you, please.
My name is Becky Erickson, and I got into politics in 2006 when the city of Paulsbo annexed my family farm in the city, and we were surrounded by developers, and we were very worried about losing our farm. And bad policy implemented poorly by local government. I orchestrated a building moratorium to stop the development in order to rewrite the codes. I went to work. I was elected to the city council in 2008. I was elected to mayor in 2010. I am now working on my 3rd term as mayor. I also get really nervous in these things. You would think we would learn over time. Anyway, I am currently on the executive committee and executive board of the Puget Sound Regional Council. I chaired the new financial plan for transportation for the entire Puget Sound region, the $200 billion programs. I worked tirelessly for Paulsbo and my neighbors, which I call the Greater Paulsbo. I also lived for 15 years on Bainbridge Island, so I consider that city my second home. I'm running because I got mad. Whenever I take a step politically, it's because I get mad. Okay, I got angry. I got angry over the Public Records Act when the legislature decided that they didn't need to share their emails. They didn't need to be transparent about what they were doing. I hope today Ms. Appleton will state clearly that she's willing to give up all of her emails for inspection so that we can all know what is going on with our state legislature and what's actually occurring. I'm also extremely frustrated at the way state government reacts with local government. Continually, over and over again, we are given laws that we can't implement with unintended consequences. We're seeing a classic right now. I was driving in here this morning and I heard that the Seattle School District is debating on whether or not they should go out for strike, the teachers. So much for McCleary. We need to have people at the state level that understand the implications of the laws that are being passed so that we can work with them effectively at the local level for the betterment of our communities. Constantly, we are picking up the pieces of legislation that doesn't work locally. All government, folks, is local. They pass laws, but they're implemented locally. Thank you.
This is muffled? Okay, so maybe we just hold, okay, so maybe it's just a matter of holding, we'll have to hold the mic just a little bit away.
Yes.
We do all right? Okay. It can be difficult. You still, your challenge stands?
Yes.
So we do have we start off our candidate conversation with a challenge. So here you go, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to challenge what Becky said about the public disclosure. The fact is that we made a mistake, and as soon as I realized that we made a mistake because leadership had pushed us into this, I sent a letter to all my constituents on the 23rd and apologized for doing that, and then signed on to a letter to Jay Inslee asking him to veto. So I feel like, yes, I made a mistake, but no, I got through it, and so did everybody else. So, thank you.
And then Becky gets 5 minutes.
Will you state today, Ms. Appleton, that you will give up your emails to public disclosure?
I guess that's a question to her. So-
Yeah, I'm asking you, are you going to give up your emails to public disclosure?
Well, first of all, we've never said that we wouldn't give stuff to the Public Disclosure Commission. We all agreed on text and on our calendars and that, but not on our emails
Okay, you said no emails.
because I was protecting, and so was everybody else, our constituents who happened to send us some really ugly emails for them. And we worked to make that better, but not all the circumstances define who it was or who sent the email. So that's why people protected their emails. We haven't finished. The task force is still working, and in January, we will.
Continuing conversation?
Yeah, this is really important because we need to know, and under the Public Records Act, redactions are allowed for privacy. That's part of the law. This nonsense of, oh, I couldn't disclose it because I was relaying personal information. Local government and all the other administrative offices of government have to disclose under this law, okay? That is nonsense when you say, oh, I'm protecting privacy. There are methods. There are methods to redact that privacy level. This is a ruse. And I have talked to several newspaper editors, and I have said, not only should they disclose all of their records like we do, but they need to be sued for not obeying the Open Public Meetings Act that allowed them to do this overnight without any public inspection. Open Public Meetings Act, they shouldn't be exempted from that as well. Okay, take a deep breath. Thank you very much.
And I'll need a challenge card and would you like to respond to that?
Thank you. First of all, it's a misnomer that we didn't inform the public. We did have a public hearing that very day. Unfortunately, it was just too fast. And none of us really understood, but we were told by leadership that this was something that we really needed because of the Public Disclosure Act, the Public Records Act. I never would have voted for it, as I've said before, if I had known what it did. But no matter what, with redaction, unless you're doing it on both sides of the document, you aren't hiding anything. So that's...
So, all right then, let's begin with the questions. We start off with some good challenges right away this morning, and moving on to our 1-minute questions. The first question is, and this one just comes straight out of the chute, what party do you prefer, and who will you caucus with in Olympia? Why? This is almost a 3-part question. Why do you think having a party to caucus with is important? So I guess I'll let you answer those. I'm happy to repeat these if you so choose. Sherry, I'll let you start.
Well, thank you. I actually put down that I am a Democrat. I prefer the Democratic Party. Why you have a caucus is to tell people what your ideology is. You can't tell if somebody says they're no preference. Then you don't know what their base philosophy is. And for me, that's important. That's how I judge people. If they're an independent, then they need to say, I'm an independent, and I'm not going to work with the caucus, I'm not going to work with staff, because that's what you do when you're an independent. You don't have a caucus, and you don't have staff.
Please, same question.
My dad was a conservative Goldwater Republican. My mom was a member of the Socialist Workers' Party, okay? That's the way I was raised. So I have seen both sides of extreme positions, and so therefore I am a moderate, and I have no party affiliation. I don't believe you should have a label to tell people how you think, okay? That's really an interesting concept, that you're labeled, therefore you think this way. I think that the voters of our state and our country are smarter than that. I hope they're smarter than that. I'm an independent. Who will I caucus with? Probably the Democrats, because I can be more effective there. But I have no party affiliation. And I probably have no party affiliation because I am a moderate. I'd like to think I take great ideas from wherever they come from and see if I can implement them.
Actually, if you hold the mic, because the next question goes to you, Becky, for to begin. The question from our audience member says, most Washington citizens want affordable health care for all, according to this member. What is your position on the single-payer bills that have been proposed in Olympia the last few years? And in addition, if not in favor, how do you propose to cover all Washington citizens with affordable health care?
Very difficult question. I read pieces of the text of 1600 that didn't make it to the ballot. The problem is how we're going to pay for it. I think that healthcare is a right, absolutely is a right. I also think that it needs to be means tested, which means that we have some incredibly affluent people in this state specifically that should help pay their fair share towards their own health care. So therefore, what I would say is that I do believe that we need to reform our medical programs, starting on the insurance side. The insurance side first. The insurance is a mess. Okay, start on that piece, and that should reduce costs. Administration costs need to come down. Start on that piece as well. But those people moderate and low income absolutely should have health care provided.
Same question, Sherry, would you like me to repeat it? Okay.
For the last 7 years, I have introduced a bill that we would call Medicare for All, and it was single payer. And it was brought to me by the Northwest Physicians for universal health care. And they have written a really good bill that would be affordable for everybody. The last iteration was $75 per person, which is affordable in today's atmosphere of 500, 1,000, 900. The point is that healthcare is a right. It is not a privilege. And so everybody should have the opportunity to have affordable healthcare.
Great. If you hold the mic, Sherry, then we'll go on to our next question. The question is, the current opiate addiction crisis is destroying the lives of too many Washington citizens and costing the state hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Number one, do you consider this crisis requires criminal justice or a public health solution? And of that, what solutions can you offer to halt and reverse this crisis?
With the opioids, one of the things that our Attorney General has done is join the other Attorney Generals across the country suing the pharmaceutical companies for having duped doctors and the public. And I don't think that's going to solve the situation, but it is going to help. I think that we should be able, this is a health care issue. It's just like alcoholics. It's a health care issue. And we have to be very open to different things outside the box to stop this addiction. It's really a very difficult thing, and not one thing is going to solve it. It will be many things that will help.
This is an hour's conversation. It's both. It's medical and it's law enforcement working together, because oftentimes those that are addicted, their contacts come with law enforcement, and then what happens is we need to have better diversion programs. In other words, when police find interaction with addiction, they need to be able to divert them into treatment. Peninsula Community Healthcare has about 260 slots now operating in our 3-county area for Suboxone and Vivitrol treatment. They're full. We need better funding specifically for treatment programs. Then we need better ways to divert them out of our criminal justice system into treatment. We need to tighten up our needle exchanges so that when needles occur, when the exchanges occur, that is a point of contact for getting people into treatment. That's not happening as well as it should. We need more dollars specifically directed at treatment programs of, everything from, lots more treatment.
Actually, if you hold the mic, Becky, I'll give you the next question, please. The question is, what actions do you propose to house the homeless?
Oh, Lord. Homeless folks, there's actually what I call a pillar of need. Homeless, working poor, starting out needing homes. There's a whole series of affordable housing. Sheltering, we need to have more shelters in the county, and smaller scale. When we have the large tent cities, what happens is they turn into communities, and then therefore they don't move out of that lifestyle. And so we need to have small shelters located throughout the county that are closely monitored by specific nonprofits that have those pieces, the training necessary. Kitsap Rescue Mission is a classic. The Mission House is another classic that knows how to get those people from that homelessness position up to the next level. Additionally, we can't look at homelessness without looking at addiction. often, and mental health. They're often they're related to one another. So I'm done.
Thank you, Vicki. Sherry, same question.
Okay. First of all, I don't think being homeless is a lifestyle. It's not a choice. Nobody wants to be homeless, except those very few who are mentally ill on the streets. But the problem becomes the neighbors think that poor people or people who are homeless are criminals, and they're not. They shouldn't be in the criminal justice system. What we need to do is to find out the root cause of why people are homeless. The last 8 years before this, we were in a recession, a great recession, and the banks perpetrated a fraud on the public. And that time they had to foreclose on houses that they should never have foreclosed on. I think it's going to take a village to figure out how to get people into housing.
Thank you, and we have a challenge, Becky?
If you look at the research and you look at honestly, it's about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3, yes, it is choice. 1/3 is mental illness, addiction, all of that perilous pieces, and then 1/3 is just plain poverty. We need to concentrate on those last 2/3 and find reasonable solutions for people. Right now, we're looking at it too globally. We need to be specific about that layer and figure out what works for each segment. And that first 1/3, which folks, if you talk to the experts, is a choice. You need to look at the other 2/3 and work with them and provide solutions for them over time. They need to be small shelters, they need to be well managed, and they need to be scattered so you don't have this huge pushback from communities when they come into their neighborhoods.
Great. And Sherry, you have a 1-minute response if you would like.
Thank you. As I said, it's going to take a village. I have actually gone to a tiny house village, and I was really impressed. There were 20 of them down in Olympia, and they're situated near a bus stop because people need transportation. The houses were small, believe me, 8 by 10, but they were able to have a bed to shelter in, and there was a common area where they had the kitchens, the showers, and all of that. And most of those people would love to get out of those tiny houses. You know, we tend to put our own slant on why somebody's homeless. But the truth is, we don't know always what makes that happen. But it's a sad situation. And I think anytime you think that a car in a parking lot is all right to live in, we are in trouble.
Thank you. So I believe the next question goes to Sherry. Yes, and the question is, what do you see as the priority in a fix for the SR16, SR3 congestion issues?
Well, that's a good question. I think that people don't always understand transportation, the funding for transportation. You know, we've had a gas tax for many years. Unfortunately, the car manufacturers are now making cars that go forever without filling up your gas tank. And that means we have less money to spend on transportation. I think you're going to see some work on 305 and 16, but it's not going to be tomorrow. We still have to figure out what we're going to do with the Agate Pass Bridge, which they say can last another 70 years. So if you widen 305, you're going to have to bring it down to get over that bridge. So I think There are a lot of things that people have suggested, and I believe that we will get to the bottom of it.
And thank you. Same question.
Big money, okay, it's gonna cost a lot of money. The reason why we're here with so many problems on our state highways, whether it be Gorse or 305 or 104, but Kingston is a mess right now, is because the state of Washington exempted themselves from the Growth Management Act and have not maintained concurrency levels with state fundings for highways. Okay, that's the bottom line. Short run, our gas tax, only about 8 cents of that 49 cents is available for maintenance and new construction. The rest of it is going to debt service, folks. We run up our credit cards. That's a fact. So we're going to have to find out better ways to fund transportation. That's why the vehicle miles traveled stuff keeps popping up, because the gas tax isn't going to cut it. I'm very, very worried about the carbon tax coming forward, because it could destabilize the gas tax. If we increase prices of gasoline, people will buy even less, and we will have less money to pay towards our road and to relieve our debt service. Okay, we have huge debt in our transportation systems right now.
Okay, so then the next question actually goes to you, Becky, and this question is, do you support the Kitsap Transit gas ferries? If not, why not? If yes, why yes?
I did not support the fast ferries and actually actively fought against them because I thought they were way too expensive and benefited very few people. I lost that one, okay? So when the people tell me they want to go in a certain direction, my job as an elected leader is to support that direction. So I've tried very hard to make those fast ferries work. We are going to have continual problems with the fast ferries because of, especially the Rich Passage 1, has bad engines, and the actual model of the boat is not going to be effective. You're going to have to rebuild the engines all the time. It's going to be incredibly expensive. Right now, they're making supposedly they're passing the number of people riding the boats, but the cash is not coming in equivalently. So I'm questioning a lot of the money